Hi, I'm Ben Orford and we're going to show you some safe cutting techniques using a parang. So the first safety factor to consider is actually removing it from the sheath. This is often when people will nick their opposing hand. So when you are about to remove it, undo the flap, hold back the leather and then carefully remove the tool, making sure that you're not going to cut your fingers or the sheath. When you're ready to move off, make sure that you replace it carefully back in the sheath, do up the closures and then you're ready to walk around. So we're going to show you how to safely remove this stem from this hazel stall. The first thing to consider is to make sure there's no loose twigs or branches that are going to catch your parang when you're chopping. And then we're going to make sure that we don't strike up the stem because it could glance and slide and cut our other hand. So try and always chop straight down into the stall. So what we'll do is we'll take some heavy chops and remove that stem from the hazel stall. So once you've removed the stem, it's a good idea to tidy up that cut. So this time we can strike upwards, but making sure your other hand is well out the way. And we'll do a few chops just to leave that nice and smooth so it can regrow. So the next thing we're going to show you how to do safely is to remove any side branches. We call this snedding, which basically means taking off any side limbs that stick out. The safest way to do this, if the item that you're working on is quite small, is to pick it up and then you can rest it on your shoulder and then striking down the stem, making sure that your hand that's holding it is always behind where the cutting tool is going. The best way to do this on larger branches is to come away from the stem slightly and strike down with a good 30-degree blow. If they're smaller stems and they literally are just shooting out the side of the stem, rest the blade onto the stem, slide it down and then can safely remove those without actually nicking the rod itself. So if it's a larger stem that you're working on and you can't pick it up, the safest way to do it is with it lay on the floor, make sure that you use that same 30-degree slice, but try and position your body in front of where you're striking. So as you cut through, there's no fear of you actually getting hit by the tool. So the next thing we want to show you is how to point a stake safely. So what I find is if you rest it on your thigh, make sure that it protrudes behind your body and then striking it a good 30 degrees, you can point the stake quite quickly. So make one cut, turn it a few degrees, make another strike, keep turning it until you've got the point that you want. Always make sure that you've got it well behind your body and the blade is well behind where your leg is. Another good method of cutting a piece of timber to length and pointing it at the same time is to hold it upright, chop in, turn it, chop in again, turn it once more, and what you should end up with is a nice point and cut to length all in one action. So our design of parang has this flat section of bevel near the handle, which is great for very fine carving tasks. It's at best if you use the thumb of your opposing hands to apply pressure so you can control the cut and make sure that you're nice and safe. It also has this square back edge near the handle for scraping either bark or your fire steel. We can also use the parang for splitting material down. The safest way to do that is to find yourself a little chopping block, lay the parang through the pith, try and go into two equal halves, and then pick both the parang and the piece of wood up and tap it down onto the block. Once you've created that initial split, turn the tool round and using it just as a lever, we're going to apply force with our wrist and open up that split. Do not pull with this hand. If you pull, it can slide down the rod and cut this hand. So we're just using it purely as a lever. So some parangs come with a lanyard. You have got to consider that if you do loop your wrist through that and got it around your wrist, if you do let go of the parang, it can swing back and cut you. There are lots of different methods of attaching the lanyard. One of the best methods I've seen for making a good secure grip is to actually loop it back over the handle, creating an extra little loop at the front which your knuckles can sit through, and then you can tighten that up by pushing back on that knot with your thumb. That gives you extra grip, and if you do let go of it, it will still fly away from your body. So I hope that helps and you're going to be safer using your parang, but my motto is always think before you cut. But for any more information about our parang, please check out our website.